The Babylon Project podcast was our last best hope for reruns. It failed. But in the year of the Shadow War, it became something greater. Our last best hope for fandom. The year is 2017. The place, the Babylon Project podcast.
This is Maggie Egan, your ISN news anchor, and you're listening to the Babylon Project podcast. Thanks for listening.
Hello there, Babylon 5 fans. Welcome to, can you believe this, Jim, Season 3, Episode 1 of the Babylon Project podcast. This is Raul, and as always, I am here with my good friend Jim Arrowwood. How are you tonight, sir?
Good.
Can you believe we're starting Season 3?
Yes, I can, but I'll tell you what, this season is going to be, wow. I went through the entire season and got all the show summaries ready to go. And I'll tell you what, this is a roller coaster ride and a half.
The whole season, it's not like Season 1 where it just kind of starts a lot of exposition and then you get a roller coaster at the end. It's not like Season 2 where you've got all meat little filler, but, just intermittent roller coasters. This whole season is just, here in St. Louis, we used to have the world's longest, tallest, fastest roller coaster, or at least Woody, called the Screaming Eagle. It is just one long ride on the Screaming Eagle.
Yeah, it ramps up and it doesn't stop.
It's considered by a lot of people the best season of the series.
I can certainly understand that.
So,
and our first episode is Matters of Honor.
You beat me to the question. Yeah, secret operative for the Psi Corps here, huh? Yep, and we're gonna get some. We're gonna get some new people, some new sets, some new settings. Babylon 5 is gonna go mobile.
Yeah, and we're gonna get all that new stuff, and then we got a lot of things that aren't changing.
Mm-hmm. The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Well, then, and in Kasha's case, that would certainly be true.
Yes, and we're going to see some graduating of the mentor here, I think, or of the student.
Sheridan is going to take over in a big way here.
Oh yeah, I think probably the best way to kick us off is with a recap of this episode, sir.
All right, coming right up.
Archive. Access. Initiated.
A drowsy colony world known as Zagros 7 has been blockaded with mines by the Centauri, trapping a group of rangers there. Ranger Marcus Cole arrives on Babylon 5 to appeal to Sheridan for help in rescuing the trapped rangers, as there is an attack expected there soon. Sheridan agrees to help, and when he wonders how he will be able to find a ship powerful enough to do the job, Delenn takes him to a new warship called the White Star, a very fast and powerful vessel that incorporates Minbari and Vorlon technology and is manned by members of the Minbari religious caste. Sheridan, Ivanova, Delenn, Lanier, and Marcus arrive at Zagros and destroy enough of the mines to allow the Rangers to escape in their own ships. Meanwhile, Sheridan is surprised that there are no Centauri ships in the area, when a shadow vessel appears and opens fire on the White Star. Sheridan and the White Star crew escape when they enter hyperspace, and then, while emerging from hyperspace, they open a jump point inside a jump gate, causing an explosion and resulting in the destruction of the shadow vessel. Upon return to the station, Sheridan convenes a war council to examine developments in the ongoing conflict with the shadows. An agent of the Earth Force Special Intelligence Division, David Ndawi, arrives on the station with the video Keffer managed to get of the shadow vessel before it destroyed him in the Season 2 closing episode, The Fall of Night. Ndawi claims that no one on Earth knows what kind of ship it is and asks for help from Sheridan, Delenn, Londo, and G'Kar in identifying what it might be. After telling Ndawi that she does not know what it is, Delenn admits to Sheridan that it is a shadow ship from the descriptions she has read. Londo explains that he has seen such ships, but only in a dream he had. And G'Kar shows Ndawi a picture of a ship of the same configuration in his Book of Jaquan. G'Kar further explains that Jaquan wrote that the beings that own those vessels had set up a base on the Narn homeworld 1,000 years ago and were probably fighting a war in another part of the galaxy. Ndawi returns to Earth and reports what he has learned to a senator at Earthdome. After Ndawi departs, Morden and a Psychop enter the senator's office, where they begin discussing the future. Londo meets with Morden on Babylon 5 and explains that their association has come to an end and that Morden's services are no longer required. Morden agrees, but explains that he has already been in contact with Lord Rifa on Centauri Prime. Morden further explains how there will be an arrangement about how the galaxy will be divided between the Centauri and the people he represents. Londo agrees to the arrangement, but is uneasy with it at the same time. Well, there it is.
Character files opened.
Yes, sir. There it is.
Yeah, packed with a lot of stuff, this episode is.
It's definitely a lot of meat and potatoes. So, sir, who do we have with us on the show tonight? Not here on our show, but
I know what you mean.
Oh, it'd be great to get some of these people on our show.
Well, you never know. Coming on the station, playing David Ndawi, is Tucker Smallwood, and he's got a lot of credits to his name, and in the genre we have one of my favorite shows, Space Above and Beyond, and he was Commodore Ross on that show. He's been on the X-Files, on Contact, the movie Contact. He was the mission director. He was in Deep Impact, and he appeared on Star Trek Voyager, and also
I remember
on
from Enterprise. Would you believe Enterprise is really the only other thing I actually remember him from?
Oh God.
Now, I have not seen Space Above and Beyond, so
it's just one season.
Yep, that's why I haven't seen it.
It didn't get renewed, and there really isn't closure to the one season that there was, but it's a really good show. I highly recommend it.
That show is sort of an example of my first season rule. There are very few shows. Yeah. And for those who might be new listeners, Raul's first season rule, and it's especially useful now that we can stream so much television or, get shows and stuff on demand through either DVD purchase or rental or whatnot. I don't watch a show except on very rare exception until the first season is complete or almost complete, or at least far enough along that I've heard that there will be a season 2. I have gotten tired of investing in a show just to have my knees cut off from under me.
Oh, I don't have that rule. I just plain don't watch it. I mean,
I just don't want to get invested in a show and then it's like get left hanging.
Yeah, I don't have a great deal of time for TV. I got way too much going on.
Exactly. So it makes me very selective about what I will watch. So who else do we have?
Well, returning as Mr. Morden is Ed Wasser, And we have Nils Allen Stewart, who plays Large Man. He was actually on the Planet of the Apes movie. He was Scar, the most recent Planet of the Apes movie.
Okay.
And other than that, looking through his credits, he's just a very busy man. He's got a lot of stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah.
I was going to say, you're forgetting someone important.
But he's part of the regular cast.
Well, at this point, it's just going to be a guest appearance, though.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, and then in that case, I will correct that little oversight. We get our first appearance of Jason Carter as our Ranger.
Marcus Cole.
Yes, Marcus Cole.
Yep, ends up being a very big favorite of the ladies.
Oh, yeah. Diane doesn't care about Babylon 5, Diane being my wife, until season 3.
Right.
And then she really likes it. So.
Yeah, my Anthea, and for those that are newer listeners, that's the wonderful voice of Babylon 5 that you hear at the beginning. Has threatened to get hold of Diane and hijack our show and have a Jason Carter fan fest.
Well, I think Diane doesn't know really enough about the show to do that. That would be a very interesting show.
Mm-hmm. He's done a lot of stage. A lot of the more noteworthy stuff that Jason has done actually is before Babylon 5. Things like Beverly Hills 90210, that old series that was around for like a season or so, or just like one season, called Viper. Little appearances on Third Rock, stuff like that. And of course, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you might know that he played Glorfindel on the video games.
Oh. Yeah, see, the only thing I know him from is Babylon 5.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty much the same for me as well, to be honest, but IMDb is your friend. That's my motto. Anyway, sir, I think that covers everyone else's significance.
Yes.
I mean, we get a collection of people at the end, but these are the ones that are key to the story.
Right.
Initiating plot analysis.
The story here picks up about a week after Kosh saved Sheridan, and they're still busy repairing the station. The docking pylons being welded back together.
Right, and yeah, there's a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Sheridan visiting with Kosh.
Yes, this is probably the most vocal and informative Vorlon conversation in the entire show.
Yeah, and the most maddening one for Sheridan also.
Yep. Couple of questions. I wonder, why is it so tiring for Kosh to be seen?
Yeah, he makes that remark, and I wonder if he doesn't put out certain kinds of energy, and when someone sees him, they absorb it, and so that when he did show himself, if he didn't send out too many vibes, you know what I mean?
I know where you're getting, and I think when we get toward the end of the show, there's going to be a couple of comments that I've got to make, and it will probably tie. I'm just thinking what you said there will probably tie into that. We do find out one important thing about Kosh in this conversation too.
Other than being a smart aleck, it's what?
Well, yeah, it seems at least some Vorlons have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Whether it's good humor or not is open to debate, but at least it seems they have a sense of humor.
Right.
Good. Now, flip side of this, we've got in some of the more serious conversation, just Sheridan trying to figure out what is going on. Kosh kind of repeats himself with that line, "I have always been here."
Yeah. And then Sheridan says, "You said that about me also."
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then Sheridan, "I really hate it when you do that." Kosh says, Good. Like I said, Vorlons and humor. They actually have one. Yeah, they do. Especially when they have the upper hand.
Mm-hmm. And from here, we switch to a Drazi and a guy with a fake beard that look like they're probably two rangers.
Yeah, and they're trying to run a blockade.
Mm-hmm. And of course, kind of an obvious, where's the human trying to head?
Well, they need to get to Babylon 5.
Naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, he's on the way to Babylon 5. Now, there's a reason I said the guy with the fake beard. Marcus hadn't fully grown in his beard at that point. So they had to darken the stubble. They had to do a makeup job darkening the stubble to make it look more like he had his beard.
Okay.
Now, if you're watching it on normal TV, you're really not going to notice it. But if you're watching it on a 50-inch plasma, gee, that beard is makeup, isn't it?
Oh, see, I didn't notice it myself. But...
No, it's not real obvious. It's not that obvious, but if you're paying attention, of course, now that you know it, you're not going to be able to see the show without going, I'm going to choke Raul.
No, I don't worry about that too much.
And now we swing through the opening. You notice the opening credits have changed.
Yeah, we have a new music and
new chapter, new credits,
new everything. Yeah, we're starting with a really weird sounding theme.
Some heavy percussion here.
Oh yeah, and that ascending minor scale. I mean, wow. If that doesn't tell you that things are going to be
chaotic,
uncomfortable, yeah, that.
The dialogue of, the monologue of that opening credit as well. It's no longer our best hope for peace. It's our best hope for victory.
Right. We have to shift gears now. Yep. Got to shift gears.
Huge shift. And in the first part of the huge shift, well, guess what? Another VIP visitor.
Oh, yes. And Sheridan is not at all real happy about this. They just keep coming and coming. He was never happy about
VIPs.
Yeah.
The politics side of his job definitely seems to annoy the heck out of him.
Well, they show up unannounced. They show up at the worst possible moments, and they're digging in things. Yeah, they're digging in things that is none of their business.
Uh-huh. And this particular VIP, his name's David Ndowie, and he is from Earth Alliance Intelligence. So he's a spook on top of it.
Right, and that's going to raise a red flag right away, because we have things
especially
going
when
on
you're military.
Yeah, we have things going on the station that they don't want out.
Correct. Except in this case, he wants to talk to Dylan, which is a real head scratcher.
Right. He definitely has something he wants to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to intelligence, it really does seem like, at least you get the feeling he's actually looking for intelligence on some sort of question. The astute watcher may think about how last season ended and get a clue as to what that question may involve.
Right. He is kind of open about what's going on. So he doesn't seem to be looking for anything out of the ordinary.
He doesn't seem to be thinking about Sheridan's little conspiracy.
Right.
I think they've already called it a conspiracy of light at one point.
Then we switch over to MedLab, where we find our ranger that was previously trying to get to the station. He's made it, but he doesn't look in really good shape.
Did you notice MedLab got an upgrade?
Oh, yeah.
In fact, Garibaldi mentions it as well. So they apparently have had, from a practical perspective, the old MedLab was a little hard to work in from shooting. And there were other things just from a couple of years of experience that they wanted to improve in MedLab. And they revamped it. And they made no secret. I really like this. There's too many shows where they would just pretend that this was the MedLab all along. And they actually go to the trouble of, they take the time. It's like, hey, you like the new digs, Doc?
And it does look like there's a lot more elbow room in there.
It is, definitely. And you had made a comment about that ranger looking in kind of rough shape because,
yes.
Well, I guess he wasn't too badly hurt, because when you look down,
where'd he go? Yeah, Franklin turns around to go make a call, and when he turns around, No more Ranger.
Yeah. Let's see. Other pieces that are getting put into play here. It looks like Londo is trying to grow a conscience. He wants to break up with Morden. More
Yeah.
importantly, he wants to break up with Morden's associates.
Well, he's gotten in pretty deep, and he's gonna try to get out now. And I don't know how much success he's gonna have at that.
Yeah, and Morden seemed awfully chipper about being asked to just go away.
Yeah, he didn't protest at all. It's like, okay, I'm comfortable with that.
I'll go away as long as you want. I do need to check with my associates first, and then we'll wrap up any final business. Yeah, no, there's no such thing as a free lunch.
Well, the thing is it's not Morden and his associates that are no longer necessary. It's Londo that's no longer necessary, unfortunately.
Yeah, we'll find out a little. At least that's how some people seem to view it. For some reason, we'll just leave it as, for some reason, the Shadows seem to have taken a liking to Londo, and they're going to go to a lot of trouble to get him back in their orbit in the future.
Oh, yes, down the road a piece. But for right now,
I'd rather actually prefer to be not necessary than necessary in the sense that he is, or he becomes.
Well, yeah, if a person has to live with themselves after all.
Right. In Dowie, we find out why he wants Delenn's help. Remember that mysterious ship from the end of the season when Mr. Studley buys it?
Mr. Studley.
Keffer.
Yes, meaning
the good-looking fighter jock that the suit shoved down JMS's throat for that season that he proceeded to kill.
Right. And then but he's got that gun camera footage.
Uh-huh.
And Dowie tells her that, we found this on the news, and as soon as we saw this, we pulled it off.
Right, and that's what I was referring to about last season. That was a ISNU story that went up on it.
Mm-hmm. And he asks her directly, have you ever seen anything like this before?
Well, she doesn't exactly lie. She has never actually seen a shadow vessel before.
Yeah, not for herself, but she also isn't exactly telling the truth, because she is more than aware that they are out there.
Right, though she does a good job. I mean, obviously she has to maintain security. She has to maintain security, but she keeps that Minbari thing about not explicitly lying.
Yeah,
so
she's walking a very thin tightrope here.
Mm-hmm. But she does fill in Sheridan about the ship after Indawi leaves. And it's basically, the ships are darn near indefeatable, and once they get their sights on you, they don't stop, and you're dead, and she can probably explain it better than I can.
Okay.
A few months ago, you told me about an ancient race, the Shadows. This is one of theirs, isn't it?
I'm sorry I could not tell him the truth. But our only chance is in allowing the Shadows to think that we are unaware of their return while we prepare our own forces.
But you said you'd never seen one before.
That part was true. Descriptions of these ships have come down to us from the last Great War. But I have never actually seen one until this moment. These ships, once they target you, they never stop, never slow down, never give up until they have destroyed you. They are nearly invincible.
I don't believe that. Every ship has a weakness.
Believe what you will, until experience changes your mind. Take a good look, John, and remember it well. That is the face of our enemy.
Yeah, and Sheridan is not buying the invincibility line.
Yeah, he's got some shrapnel to prove that point. Though, to be honest, in Delenn's defense, what we have seen those shadow vessels do in the last 2 seasons, her description and her explanation of their power, at the very least, is justified. We've seen 2 or 3 of those ships take out whole fleets.
Yeah. Well, and she is deadly serious about what she's talking about. She's not pulling any punches. She's telling the truth.
Oh, yeah. Right after this, Lanier chases down Delenn. And, well, it wasn't just Babylon 5 that the Ranger was trying to get to. It was Delenn as well. Which I guess makes sense because we found out last season that Delenn was in charge of the Rangers in that region.
Yeah, and they are obligated to report to her or Sheridan.
Mm-hmm. I get the feeling that the Rangers are going to play a little bit more significant of a role in Season 3 than they did just dancing around the edges in Season 2.
Oh, well, we got to give Marcus something to do.
Yeah. Well, Indawi, having finished talking to Delenn, checks with Londo. And Londo really can't help, at least not in the way that Indawi thinks of it as help, because it's basically Londo's dreams. I love Londo's comment about joy. They make joy a duty.
Right.
Do you have that one by chance?
I do.
I appreciate your seeing me on such short notice, Ambassador Molari.
Nonsense. Even before our new treaty, there is nothing I would not do for my dear friends from Earth. Now, you are sure you will not have a drink?
Not while I'm on duty.
Well, you see, we Centauri are always on duty. Duty to the Republic, to our houses, to one another. And so we have made the practice of joy another duty, one which must be pursued as vigorously as the others. You should try it sometime.
Joy is a duty.
Joy is a duty.
As he downs a big gulp of Bravari.
Yep.
This banter between the two of them, Londo has all of a sudden become a diplomat. In other words, he comes across as being very phony.
Yeah. In a way, it's just sort of a redirection of the clownishness we've seen. Yeah. And, I think it's one of those rare moments that Londo gets to kind of let that playful side of him out because, let's face it, he's taken a very dark turn.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. So
Londo was able to give him some help. He was able to discuss the dream he had that we saw in Season 1.
Yeah, he describes the scene as he's looking up and seeing what he describes as thousands of shadow vessels flying over Minbari Prime.
Right.
Now,
and remember, Centauri have a thing with their dreams.
Well, yeah. But, what's funny is he doesn't know exactly where he is on Centauri Prime.
Nope.
He doesn't seem to really know all the circumstances surrounding that.
And while he may not necessarily know, as in complete, verified, confirmed, of what those ships are, I'm pretty darn certain by this point, he has a pretty good idea.
Oh, yeah. Well, and, as far as their dreams are concerned, they see their fate in their dreams, but it seems to be there's nothing really specific about the circumstances surrounding the events that they foresee.
Right.
Which leaves a lot of doors wide open.
Yeah. And what you're saying gets even emphasized. I mean, when we start talking to Centauri seers. You remember that's going to happen a little bit more specifically later, but we already had Londo's relative that was on. It wasn't Londo's relative. It was his friend's relative with that the Eye of the Centauri back in Season 1.
Yeah.
She was able to share that vision with Sinclair. So even there, you've got a whole lot of room for play with the visions.
Well, the next time we see a Centauri seer, it's going to get a lot more interesting.
Oh, is it ever? In the meantime, we're going to switch over to the Minbari for a while.
Yeah.
Apparently, Delenn and Lanier are off to meet this ranger, and I must say that's a pretty crappy place for a Minbari to be meeting.
Well, now just think about it. The Rangers move in the shadows. It's in the dark places. No one else will go. But he walks up and puts a drink down in front of Lanier and Delenn, and Lanier is immediately, "Oh no, you don't. We don't get any drinks."
Yep. Well, he sniffs for alcohol.
And he finds out it's clear, but Marcus lets him know, people come here to drink. Do you want to call attention to yourselves?
Right.
So, it's just logical.
And this is where we get the Ranger's name, too, by the way. Marcus. Remember that.
Right.
We'll be seeing a lot of him over the next course of the some seasons.
Yeah, he's going to play, and he's really neat. I like this guy.
His description of the Ranger's pin is a good introduction for the guy. If you've got that, let's go ahead and play that.
Do you know, I've heard that when these are made, they're forged in white-hot flame, then cooled in 3 bowls. The first is some kind of ancient holy water. The second, Minbari blood. The third, human blood. They say that when a ranger dies, the figures on either side shed 3 tears, 1 of water and 2 of blood.
And you? Do you believe this?
I stopped believing in miracles a long time ago, Ambassador. Part of the heart goes dead. It's best to leave it that way.
Yeah. Just the mythology behind the Ranger pin is interesting.
Yeah, it now, for those that don't know what the pin looks like, it's roughly an oval on its side with a colored stone, and on either side, on one side there's a Minbari silhouette, and on the other side there is a human silhouette.
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting because apparently there are at least Drazi Rangers from what we saw at the beginning.
Well,
or was he a ranger?
Well, there's a Pakmara Ranger. I know that when they have a meeting, it seems like there's all races.
But that kind of, for me at least, that's kind of, I scratched my head and wondered, and it's like, okay, what is special about humans and Minbari with respect to this organization?
Well, as we know from what we learned in the past, when a Minbari dies, it comes back in a human soul.
Yes, you're right.
Which is the reason that they stopped the war, so they weren't killing Minbari souls that had already been resurrected in human bodies.
Right. And the Sinclair being where they had found that.
And when they captured him and tortured and examined him.
Uh-huh. Marcus, too, seems to be a little bit, at least at this point, what's the word I'm looking for? A little on the pessimistic side, shall we say?
Well, yeah, and he establishes that right after he talks about the making of the Ranger pin, which, if you recall from Peter David's book, he's quite justified in being cynical.
Right. What was the title of that book?
To Dream in the City of Sorrows.
Definitely must read. You'll get all of Marcus's backstory as well as the resolution of the Sinclair story.
Oh, it's incredible. It's a great book. And you know what the real switch is? The last time we talked about this book, I couldn't remember the title, and you had to remind me.
I know.
Touché, we're even.
Well, you've already saved my biscuits on some of the story details that I just had a total brain fart on as well. So actually, you're a couple points up now.
Woohoo! I'll take it.
Well,
he is definitely pessimistic because as they leave the bar together,
it seems that they're being followed.
Yeah, a couple guys get up and follow them out.
Yep, a couple robbers. At which point, well, gee, is there a polite way of putting it? They more or less beat the crap out of them.
Yeah, it's a real slobber knocker.
Yeah. Hey, Delenn's pretty good at a fight.
And she knows how to use a fighting pike too.
Yeah, which kind of becomes the signature weapon. The little, about the size of half the size of a running baton, and shake, shake, and you've got a heavy metal.
Oh, there's a priceless scene a few episodes down the road with that thing. That is funny. But yeah, they acquit themselves in a fight quite well. Marcus is just all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Lanier acquits himself quite well also.
Right.
So, Marcus kind of establishes some of his personality in this scene that I really like. The guy says, "I don't like to be insulted," and Marcus says to him, "Well, but judging by the look of your face, I would assume you'd be used to it by now."
Yep. Get used to that. If you haven't seen the series already, get used to that. That's Marcus.
Yep. That's one I'm going to use someday on somebody. I don't know who, but I'll figure it out.
Well, apparently a meeting has been called, and Susan's finally getting pulled into this side of things. So Sheridan fills her in on the Rangers, or not.
Yeah, Susan fills Sheridan in on the Rangers.
And like she says, he needs to worry when she doesn't know what's going on.
Well, Ivanova is a very important part of the station. I doubt very much goes on that her or Garibaldi don't know about.
Mm-hmm. And apparently, that planet we saw being blockaded, that was being shot at, is a Ranger training camp in Drazi space, but it's on the edge of Drazi space.
Uh-huh.
And it's too far away for the Drazi to be able to be of help, and let's face it, it's being blockaded by the Centauri, so that makes things even more difficult for them.
The Drazi probably wouldn't have enough to help them anyway.
Yeah. Their forces are being occupied elsewhere, but Marcus can provide the ship if Sheridan can provide essentially the command crew. And Mike will run interference. And while this is happening, Morden and Londo are dividing known space, if you don't mind my borrowing a phrase from Larry Niven.
Yeah.
His Tales of Known Space. Okay, shameless plug time. If you haven't been listening to Jim's other podcast, tell us what it's called.
Oh, you mean the former...
used to be Dune Saga podcast.
Dune Saga podcast, which is
free publicity.
Yes, which is now going to become the Orbital Sword podcast.
Mm-hmm. And is going to be reading Larry Niven's Ringworld soon, I believe, correct?
Well, we did record already an episode where we took a look at the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, just the very first book.
Right.
And then, yes, it was my turn to choose, and on your recommendation... I recommended Ringworld by Larry Niven, and so anyway, however, this is not the Orbital Sword podcast.
But if you're listening to this podcast, that means you love good science fiction, which means you should be listening to the Orbital Sword podcast.
Yeah, as soon as it comes out.
And reading Ringworld first, and Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yes, we have not posted anything as of yet, but hopefully
well, you will
very
run
soon.
I will just tell you this: you will run into the phrase "known space," and if you hear me, throughout the explicative tang, I'll leave it for you to read some more Niven and find out what that means.
Okay, then I will rephrase my earlier statement and say this is not the Larry Niven podcast. This is the Babylon Project podcast.
Where Morden and Londo are dividing known space.
Well, not actually Londo. Morden is laying down the law. This is the agreement that Morden has with dun dun dun
Lord
Rifa. So Morden has now gone over
except
Londo's
for one planet.
head. I'm sorry, what?
I said that they divide it this half, that half, except for one planet.
Uh-huh. And it isn't really even half. The Centauri get about a quarter of the galaxy. They get about a quarter of the galaxy, and the Shadows say, the rest is ours, except for this one thing here.
Yeah, and that one thing, in other words, that planet that's being blockaded, wasn't even Londo in the Loop. That blockade. I mean, let's face it. It's pretty obvious which planet that is. Was being secured, blockaded by Rifa's instruction, and Mr. Morden wants the Centauri to get out of there.
Yeah,
for their own
you remember
safety.
the name of the planet in question?
Yeah, the one you mentioned in your summary.
Yeah, Zagros.
Huh?
Zagros.
Zagros?
Zagros 7.
Right.
And did you know also that Zagros refers to a mountain range just outside of the city of Babylon?
Oh.
Yeah.
What
a little
coincidence.
Just a little geography lesson there.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, I've got to have my squee moment.
Okay. Oh, no.
Yay! White star! White star! White star!
Oh, God.
Okay, I'm better.
Oh, good. Troy's gonna kill you for that. You know that, don't you? He's gonna reach right through the internet and grab you by the throat.
Oh. You got to admit, it is probably one of the coolest ships in sci-fi.
Okay, I'll give you that. Except the upper part of that ship looks like one of those rubber chickens.
Oh, God.
It does. It looks like a plucked.
God.
It looks like a plucked goose riding on top of the ship. You got look at it.
Thank you. You just saved me from getting choked through the internet by Troy. Oh, Lordy.
No, I want you to look at that and take a good close look at it and tell me if you don't agree. But whatever.
All right.
Rubber chickens and whoopee cushions. Here we go.
Wow. Back on Babylon 5, Garibaldi is doing a pretty good job running interference for Sheridan. Sheridan seems to be hard to find or hard to get hold of. And Dowie wants to know, and Garibaldi has to explain why he needs to know or doesn't need to know or should tell him but not tell him, or I don't know, just play it.
He does a great job of...
It's classic.
This is quite irregular, Mr. Garibaldi. I was assured that Captain Sheridan or Commander Ivanova would be available.
They got called away on urgent business.
What kind of business?
I'm not authorized for that kind of information.
But you're the head of security.
And what kind of head of security would I be if I let people like me know things that I'm not supposed to know? I mean, I know what I know because I have to know it. And if I don't have to know it, I don't tell me, and I don't let anyone else tell me either. Now, look, we've tried most of the other ambassadors. Why don't you speak to Jakar? Maybe he knows something about this ship.
Under the terms of our recent treaty, I am not authorized to have any official conversation with Dinan without Centauri approval.
So you'll ask unofficially, and I can give you reasonable assurances that the head of security will not report you for doing so.
Because you won't tell yourself about it.
I try never to get involved in my own life. Too much trouble.
This is a very strange place you have here, Mr. Garibaldi.
Thank you.
I'm going to memorize that and use it.
I just want to know how many takes it took to get that.
Oh, I'd imagine Jerry Doyle nailed it the first time.
It's not so much a matter of could he nail it. It's a matter of could everyone else keep a straight face as he did it.
Well, there you go. Yeah, that's very true.
But yeah, he does suggest that they talk to Jakar, maybe get some answers there.
Which Indawi does. He does go and visit Jakar, and this is where we get the aha moment.
I mean, the tour of the White Star is fairly simple. It's a Minbari Vorlon hybrid, and hey, it's got gravity.
Yeah, And there really isn't a whole lot to see until you get to the bridge.
And it's kind of funny. DeLynne's comment was almost like, well, yes, and you don't. And we noticed in the past that the Centauri ships had gravity as well.
Uh-huh.
Artificial gravity. Yeah, the bridge, which doesn't seem quite finished.
Well, yeah, I know.
Well, remember, this is still a prototype.
Well,
it is a prototype.
I understand that, but now I look at the control consoles, right?
The ones that look like they're lined with intestines?
Exactly. I mean, what is that?
I think it kind of, when you look at the Vorlon encounter suit, it kind of looks, I suspect, it's supposed to be at least a little Vorlon-ish.
Oh, okay. Well, see, the Vorlon encounter suit looks like a Keurig coffee maker to me.
Except for the little projections that dangle out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of looks almost squid-like.
Yeah, okay.
So
it was like, why do we have...
It's still prototype, so when we see the white star again, the bridge is going to appear much more finished.
Well, I sure hope so, because seeing transverse colon all over the bridge just wouldn't excite me at all.
Yeah, especially for men our age.
Yeah.
God, I don't. We gotta move. We're moving on. Lanier's going to translate.
Yeah.
Rather, I almost said transverse, but they're going to be heading to, as you said, Vagra 7.
Zagra 7, yeah. Not sure what they're going to find, I don't think, at this point.
Well, they're expecting to find a Centauri blockade.
Uh-huh. And
but that's what they're expecting.
And it would be a pretty easy matter, I think, for them to deal with the Centauri, get the Rangers out, and take off.
Is anything on this show ever as easy as it seems, though?
Well, no, then it wouldn't be a very interesting show, would it?
Nope, not at all.
Now we move to Jakar and the aha moment for at least for Mr. Indawi.
Yes, where he recognizes the shadow vessel.
Uh-huh, and he pulls out the Book of Jaquan.
Right.
And
we saw that in season 1.
Yes, and tells him what happened 1,000 years ago as relating to the shadows on Narn.
In fact, we saw that we saw the picture of that ship back then too.
Yes, we did.
Uh-huh.
And so Indawi does finally get his answers.
Yeah. I like Jakar's quote, by the way. To all things there is a time.
You know what I thought was really neat was when Jakar talked about the book itself, that it is every copy is hand drawn, every line exactly the same all the way through. And that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
You know, that harkens back to our history before Gutenberg.
How the Jews in particular preserved the Tanakh.
Uh-huh.
Which is the entire embodiment of the Jewish scripture.
Yeah.
So that there was a whole series of strict rules that they followed in producing their scripture.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're right. It was very cool, and it has a direct tie into our history. Marcus back on the White Star, kind of quiet, but we get some of his backstory. You almost get the feeling that this is one of his first real, I guess what you could call a solo mission.
Yeah, he's not been a ranger for very long.
No, we find out that he joined because of his brother, and that his brother was killed, and that Marcus took up his brother's mantle, more or less.
His brother was a ranger, and then again, this is detailed in Peter David's book.
Like I said, it's a must read.
Yeah, yeah. If you want to know what happened to
Sinclair,
if you want to know what happened to Sinclair and his betrothed, that's the place to find out.
Mm-hmm.
And it is considered canon, I understand.
It is completely considered canon. Of the solo books, the standalone books, that is the only one that is considered completely canonical, as I understand it. The others have varying degrees, but this one is considered 100% canon. There's also 3 trilogies in the books that are also considered canonical.
They're great.
You've read the Centauri trilogy that covers the things that happen from near the end of season 5 through the actual end of the story over, I guess, the course of 20 years or so. There's also a Psy-Corps trilogy that traces the history of the Psy-Corps, and in particular, as we get further along, Bester and his fate. And we also have the Technomage trilogy, for those of you who are Technomage fans and are wondering, why did the Technomages have to leave when they did? There's real reason behind that. But yeah, the White Star arrives. They're blowing up mines and looking for Centauri, and nothing's there.
Yeah, there is no Centauri, but however, there is
a shadow vessel.
A nasty looking shadow vessel.
Oh crap moment.
For sure.
Yep.
Here we have an untested, well, as far as we know, untested battleship going up against a weapons platform.
Something that could take out half of Narn fleet.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it just that beam that shadow vessel puts out will cut a ship in half.
It cuts whole space stations in half. But what does Sheridan do? Let's go ahead and finish taking out those last 3 mines. And all I can say is that White Star can move.
It definitely does get up and go.
Thank God for artificial gravity.
Yep. And our Rangers get away.
Mm-hmm.
And the Shadows
are honked.
They're not real happy about that.
Nope. And Sheridan, he wants the Shadows to follow.
Well, and the Shadows are very likely would anyway, because this is a whole new ship now that they've never seen anything like it before. So they're I'm sure curious and want to get some intelligence on that before it gets away.
Yeah, and that actually, because Delenn is just blown away. It's like, they missed us. They never miss. And Sheridan they've never seen the ship before, basically.
Well, the Shadows have been taking out, heavy cruisers,
right?
Small ships, and so forth and so on. They really haven't seen anything that can move.
That can move like a White Star, and he's, I love his line when Delenn is, for lack of a better phrase, freaking out about we gotta run, we can't fight this thing. Sheridan's response is basically, yeah, I heard that before.
Yeah.
Remember the Trugati?
Uh-huh.
No, not the Trugati, but the Black Star. So, yep. Well, he actually does have a plan here. He wants to blow a jump gate.
Yeah, and
big boom.
And he chooses an old Marcab gate. Now, of course, we know the Marcab are no more.
Right, so, but people have been pilfering the planet.
Yeah, and they have there's no need to have it, I guess, anymore anyway.
And he's hoping that the White Star's fast enough to beat the explosion.
Yeah, he's taking a big risk here, kind of sticking his neck out a little bit.
Uh-huh. Well, let's face it, they really don't have a lot of options short of a stand-up fight. So, and from a storytelling perspective, this is where we've been hearing how clever Sheridan is as far as his ability to plan battles. Now we're going to see that intelligence actually used in an engagement. So, end result, boom today.
Oh boy.
Really big boom.
Yeah, that gate really went up, didn't it?
Oh yeah. As Lanier put it, Temple hadn't prepared him for this.
Yeah, and the shockwave actually hits the White Star.
Bounces them around, but they are able to get away in time.
Mm-hmm. It's a tough ship, even though it looks a little weird.
Well, they get back to Babylon 5 just in time for Endawi to leave.
Yep, and Dowie is making his exit. Oh, well, nice to finally see you. Where have you been? Fortunately, Delenn had a real good story made up.
Yep, the Minbari government asked for their help, and yeah, right. Well, actually, she was not speaking in a way. That's true. But she wasn't speaking for the Great Council. She was speaking for the religious caste. And that brings up a few points to keep in mind here. Remember, when we're talking about the White Star, some of what we're learning here is that the religious caste, it's not the Great Council building the White Stars. It's the religious caste building these ships.
Well,
I wonder if that might step on someone's toes.
And here again, we get Delenn not exactly telling a lie, but not exactly telling. How many angels can dance on the head of a pin?
Well,
I mean,
Minbari are allowed to lie to save the face of another, and in this case, that would definitely qualify. But she still keeps more or less to the truth.
That's a stretch. It's a stretch, but that's okay.
She's a politician. What do you expect?
Okay. Well, and not only that, I was also thinking that she is partially human.
Right.
So.
Well, Endawi gives his report to a senator. And not just a senator and a psychop. And not just a senator and a psychop. It turns out there's someone else listening into this.
Listening in. They're not in the room, but they are listening in. And
they come in after Endawi leaves.
Yeah, and we get another one of your holy crap moments because
Senator, psychop, and
Morden, for crying out loud.
Yes, Mr. Morden.
This guy is just absolutely he's gonna run the table if he can.
Right. And it seemed that, Delenn's fear about keeping the shadows in the dark as far as how much they think people know is accurate. But it sounds like the psychop has an even better idea. He wants to use the scare to kind of speed things up, as he puts it. But what is he trying to speed up?
Yeah, the Psychor has an agenda here. And that's scary.
Right.
So.
Oh yeah. So we know the Psychor is up to their ears in this as well.
Well, and then there's always Clark, who is he's in bed with the Psychor. So it would seem that between the shadows and the Psychor, they are pulling all the strings.
Right. I don't think they're the same strings though, but this kind of is. Remember earlier in the show, I had mentioned about swinging back to some questions, in particular Kosh vibes. I think it was the power of. I think what exhausted him was the vibes that he was putting out was a telepathic suggestion of what to see. So yeah, it was. It was. You're talking about a telepathic. Yeah, that's a lot.
Okay, so that's why the humans saw an angel.
Everyone saw what they were supposed to see.
Okay, now I'm following you.
And the reason that's significant is like, okay, so there's some sort of connection. We've got Morden on Earth and involved with telepaths. The shadows were on Narn 1,000 years ago. Telepaths disappeared from Narn 1,000 years ago. I'm guessing that Vorlons are one heck of a powerful telepath. What is it about shadows and teeps? We're getting some big questions here now.
Oh yeah, and we'll get some answers later on. But you know something. Now that you pointed that out, we still then don't know what Vorlons really look like.
That's right.
You
got it. That is Joe Straczynski. Just because he gives you a big reveal doesn't mean he's giving you a big reveal. We're closer. They're glowy and they can fly. But that really is about as far as we're at now.
That's it, yeah. Well, and now we get an official meeting of Sheridan's War Council.
Mm-hmm. And we close off with some familiar words from season 2 as Delenn fills everyone in on the Shadow story.
Yep, from her perspective and what she knows.
Right. And as Marcus is sitting at the council table, I think it's a safe bet we'll be seeing him again.
No doubt.
And that, my friend, is Matters of Honor.
Quite the season opener.
It was a wonderful season opener. In the same way that Fall of Night was probably one of the most perfect season finales, Matters of Honor is a near perfect season opener.
It's good.
Picks it right up. Oh, that is a lot of show for a 1-hour show.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
Sir.
And this season maintains some intensity before we get any real lighter stuff for a few episodes yet.
We have some of the funniest episodes of the show, but yeah, it's going to remain intense.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the funniest parts are in places where you would least expect it too.
Uh-huh. I have to think about that episode with Lord Rifa on Narn.
Mm-hmm.
And what's going on in the background and some future exchanges with with the monks and
yes,
I laugh every time I hear that or think about it.
And even in some of the places where we see some of the funniest episodes, there is a hidden darkness behind it that it's a darkness hidden behind innocence almost that will chill you.
It's a well done season. This one's going to be fun to talk about.
It's going to be a lot of fun. The real challenge is going to keep us into more or less of an hour show. One of the things that's going to be hard to do. Podcasts tend to fall into this trap of time creep because the nature of the format that allows you to get longer and longer and longer. And I want to try and avoid that just out of respect for our listeners.
Uh-huh.
But this season in particular, it's going to be tough. I think we'll be okay keeping it into that hour, roughly an hour. There's going to be a few episodes like tonight, for example, I suspect, that will push past it. I don't think we're going to have a lot of episodes that run short, though.
No, I don't think so. As a matter of fact, I think we're running a little long this evening.
I think so. I do think so. Sir, one thing I do want to note, we've got to get a feedback episode up into the air soon.
Okay.
We do have some feedback to talk about by way of email, by way of our Facebook postings, probably on Twitter, which I know you monitor more than I do. So we've got a variety of feedback to discuss. And folks, that's also a hint for you. My wonderful wife at the end will tell you how to contact us for your feedback.
Mm-hmm. That'll be great. Some 5-star reviews on iTunes would be nice. If we deserve 5-star reviews, that is.
Or 4-star. The more reviews we get, the more that helps percolate us up in helping people find out about the show.
Uh-huh.
Which is not just good for us, it's good for people who like to hear discussions about Babylon 5.
Yeah.
So, sir, anything else to add?
I don't have anything right now. I think it's a wrap.
I think we've covered everything. Unfortunately, we cannot say no boom today because there was a very big boom today.
One very large boom, yes.
I think we'll also have some boom tomorrow. Why?
Well, there's always boom tomorrow.
Exactly. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Podcast terminated. Thank you for listening to the Babylon Project podcast. You can email Raul and Jim at the Babylon Project Podcast at gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook at the Babylon Project Podcast. On the internet, we are at babylonprojectpodcast.wordpress.com. To subscribe to the podcast, you can find us on iTunes, or you can subscribe to the RSS feed on the webpage.